Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of these series where I get amazing transformational beings who have really created an amazing shift in their lifestyles and in their whole physical and mental states through understanding the need for self-care. Now, I have an amazing human being today with me. His name is Stephen Murphy. And Stephen and I met about almost 2.5, 3 years ago when we had gone together on this journey of helping Steve regain his health and his confidence. His story is truly inspirational. And I'm sure anybody listening to this conversation will truly benefit from some of the pearls of wisdom that Steve has to share with us. Now, Steve works with the correctional office in Victoria, and he is a lovely human being. He's a father of two beautiful kids, if I'm correctly getting that, Steve. And, there was something special about you, Steve, that really resonated so much with me that I felt, people need to hear what most men go through, especially when we are either approaching middle age or we have are in middle age, and the challenges that this phase of life throws at us. So, Steve, thank you so much for your time, for being on this conversation with me. I truly appreciate it.
No, you're welcome, Dr. Arun. Thank you for having me.
Beautiful. So I want to actually go back in history a little bit, Steve, if that's okay.
Yep, that's fine.
What was that Steve, that individual who was having health challenge issues and mental health issues? I know you had a cancer as well. And I think the way I see a lot of us men, I feel we get angry, we get upset. Anger becomes an issue. Tell me a little bit about what were your challenges and how were you coping with it at that stage?
So it's quite an in-depth sort of story, really. All my life, I've struggled with weight, and I've been pretty much obese since year 7. Gone up and down in weight all my life. But yeah, it's one of those things that you sort of, you're not happy with yourself, but you keep doing the wrong things.
Yeah.
And basically, that led to a lot of other issues later in life. It was not all to do with mental health, but it was a factor that I wasn't happy with myself, wasn't happy with the way I looked and the way, the person that I was, which led to, depression. It was a factor of depression. And it led to, like you mentioned earlier, some really serious conditions. When I was diagnosed with stage 1 bowel cancer. And so all my life, I've really haven't been happy with myself. And I've like you mentioned, I've suffered from a lot of anger in my life, which is a flow-on effect to a lot of things, such as your marriage and your children. And there's a lot. Yeah. So the person I was before I went through my transformation was a completely different person to what I am today.
Yeah. And we will touch upon anger a little bit later, because I truly feel, this is my view, and I know I read a lot of alternate stuff, non-medical stuff, about how emotions that are not expressed become suppressed and bottled up. And when emotions are bottled up, they either turn into disease or they are expressed as guilt and shame, which is directed towards yourself, or anger, which is directed towards others. What is your view about it, Steve? Do you think that you come across, because you work in a space where you see a lot of men perhaps who are angry and they take to the sort of activities that are not considered very respectful by our society?
Yeah, it's interesting because people go down different paths with anger. For me, it was food.
Right.
I found comfort in food and just, trying to make myself happy for 5 minutes, and suppress that, where, like you said, other people do things that aren't quite acceptable in society. And it's obviously everyone's an individual, but yeah, as a whole, it still has a very negative effect regardless of what you do. I mean, I ended up very ill and I ended up very obese.
Yeah.
And some people end up doing things that, inappropriate and wrong, and end up being, put into prison for for that sort of thing. So
yeah, exactly. So
or ruin
yeah.
families and all that sort of thing. So yeah,
Exactly. There are some visible aspects of that behavior, but some which are not visible, and those are the things that we want to actually talk about, because I think every change has to start from the individual, rather
exactly.
than from what that individual is doing. First, you have to change their thinking. So tell me, what caused you to change? What caused you to create that shift that, what, enough's enough. I've had enough, Tell us a
Yeah,
little
very
bit
good
about that.
question. Very good question. So I've thought a lot about this a lot. So
Mm,
I was always at a bit of a crossroad or hesitation point. As you're aware, I'm currently separated
mm,
from my boy's mum, and although one of the defining factors of my change was my children, and I wanted to be a better dad, and I wanted to be hopefully one day reconnect with their
mm,
mum.
mm,
And at the end of the day, it's I knew, like, I always hesitated. I always put it on hold.
mm.
And it was like I was going to do this, going to do that, going to do this, going to do that. The deciding factor, there was a couple of different reasons. Number one was that when I was diagnosed with bowel cancer. I was 48 years old,
Right.
and I was diagnosed with bowel cancer. And I looked, and I had two young boys, and I thought, well, I want to be here for them for a lot longer.
Then, yeah.
So then what happened was, after initially going through the procedures and the surgeries for that,
Mm.
I decided to try to lose weight again myself, which I have done a few times in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I initially lost, I weighed 174 kilos when I was diagnosed with bowel cancer.
174.
Yeah, and I'm just short of 6 foot tall, so
Yes.
181
Mhm.
centimeters, and I was
Mhm.
174 kilos.
Yes.
When I had my surgeries and got through that, I was very lucky they caught it early. I then decided to try and lose the weight naturally, and I
Hmm.
dropped about 35 kilos,
Right.
or no, actually probably about 35 kilos.
Right.
And that probably took me approximately, I think, about 6, 7, 8 months, because I am someone that can lose weight reasonably fast.
Mm.
And then what happened was I put it all back on. It all
Right.
just came back on. So, like, I got to a point where it was like, nah, I'm going to have a full pizza and 2 blocks of
Yeah.
chocolate.
You
You know,
just let it
life
go.
gets busy, life gets hard, you get tired,
Mm.
and my discipline wasn't strong enough to be able to cope with it.
Mm.
So I then put all the weight back on, and it was because of my personal, problems, family problems, and
Mm.
wanting to survive for my kids,
Mm.
that weight loss surgery was probably my best option. And
Right.
I knew that it wasn't a easy way out. I knew that it was
Mm.
actually, in some areas, it's actually a little bit harder,
Yeah.
because you still have to go through all the cravings and all the lack of energy, and you have to still
Mm.
change your diets. You still got to go through all that. The one thing, is that you can't cheat.
Yeah.
And I have not regretted it, not once.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I do want to ask you that, just going back, willpower, you talked
yeah,
about you lost the weight previously with your willpower.
yeah.
Willpower is very tiring though, right? I mean, you can't
It's
be
very tiring,
constantly
exactly.
on a
And,
diet.
and I think that's where most people fail, is because they do really want to lose the weight, and they have that willpower for 6, 7, 8 months. They see results, and then you lose that. And it's
Yeah.
one of those things with life that it's very hard to not
Mm.
cheat.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you cheat and you put sugars and all those nice yummy foods back into your mouth, or soft drinks, or whatever you fancy, you get the cravings back.
The dopamine kick, right?
Yeah.
It just
And
comes right back.
it's just, yeah. And look, at the end of the day, like, yeah, that was the deciding. That was, like I said, no regrets. The deciding
Mm.
factors was, first, my initial health
Yes.
and my children, but most part, I wanted to live longer than my children.
Yeah.
Like, my father passed away at 72 years of age, but I'm an older father. My
Yeah.
children are still not even teenagers yet. So,
Yeah.
and I'm 52 years old.
Mm.
So, I need to live into my 80s or 90s.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always
Yeah.
say this, Steve, that why power always trumps willpower. Your
Yeah.
why was your kids, your boys became your why power. I need to be
Yeah.
around them. So tell
Yep.
me, how is this time after surgery? So you went on to have surgery. Which year did you have surgery? Can I just ask? Just
Oh,
sorry, I've lost
God.
track of time.
No, it was August. It was August last year.
Oh, August 22. Okay.
Uh, 18th, 16th, 18th, was it, or
Right. Okay.
22nd?
Okay.
Yeah,
And
because
ask
I
how.
know I weighed myself 2 weeks prior to the surgery
Yes.
on the 1st of August, and I was
Yes.
165 kilos then,
Right. 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 And how much do you weigh today?
88.8 kilos.
88. Wow. Wow. Okay. So almost like I would say 88 kilos or almost there
Well,
about.
I was just saying to my older son today, he could be on my back and my younger son could be on my front, and I'd be carrying them two around.
I know you've lost half
Yeah,
of you, right?
yeah, yeah, pretty much.
So how's it different this time around, Steve? What sort of do you feel different rather than,
I do.
how do you feel different? Why is it different this
Well,
time?
the difference is, I guess, like for me personally, everyone's experiences will obviously be different, but
Hmm.
I think with me, because I was so unhappy with myself for a long time in my life, since I was a kid,
Hmm.
and I'm sure a lot of people experience this, you're unhappy with yourself for so long. When you start to see the results and you know that you've got a little bit of help to soldier on with when it comes to the surgery that I had doesn't really allow me to eat a lot of sugars or eat a lot of fatty foods because I suffer from it. So I know that the
Hmm.
effects of having too much of those things is not good for me. So my mind is, it's almost like my mind has been reprogrammed along with
Yeah.
the actual changing of habits. Like I still occasionally, I mean, everyone is human. I'll still occasionally have something that's probably not the thing that I should be eating, but I
Yeah.
know that now it's 100% in moderation. So, like for example, I did try some fish and chips one night, but I
Yeah.
suffered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't even eat a lot, but I suffered.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not something that you want to do all this. You know,
No. No.
yeah. So for me, it's different this time because the surgery gave me the tools to
Hmm.
reprogram the way I think.
Yeah, yeah. And, just for the benefit of listeners, is it okay if I mention that the type of surgery you had?
Yeah, by all means,
You
yes.
had the gastric bypass surgery,
The mini
and
bypass,
the
yes.
mini bypass surgery, correct?
Yep.
And the thing that I often say is that why surgery is so powerful is, and I'm not saying that just because I'm a surgeon, because I see patients who have had the injections, the medications for weight loss, they've been on low calorie diet. Surgery changes your gut brain connection. So the
Yeah.
first thing that I hear from so many patients, just like yourself, Steve, is that they are able to think differently. They are able to smell, taste things differently, which is basically the
This is
gut
true.
brain connection that is changing, through the
This
hormone.
is true. And you notice the change too, quite like, because when, for me personally, I've gone through, like, it's October now. So like a year and a bit, year and 2 months or so
Yes,
since I
yes.
had the surgery. You
Mm,
actually go through, for me personally, my experience was your actually tastes disappear for a little bit and then they
yes,
come back.
yeah.
And some of them are like, I'm finding myself, eating foods and experiencing things now that I taste a bit different. That tastes much better,
I know. You may
So
be
like,
experimenting with new
yeah.
foods as well that you haven't
Yeah,
tried before.
and new foods as well. That's right. And you know what? What it's done is initially, like
Yeah.
I haven't done anything new for a while, but I actually started to cook myself and start new recipes. And you
Wow.
know, I was craving pizza, for example, one night, and I thought, well, I can't have pizza because this was early on. This is probably 3 months after surgery.
Right.
So I ended up finding a recipe that was a cauliflower base
Wow.
and creating like a cauliflower based small pizza. And it was fantastic and it was healthy. It was
Wow.
vegetarian, cheesy pizza
That's
with a cauliflower
awesome.
base. So,
And
these are things I would have never done beforehand.
yeah, 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 yeah. And the
Yeah.
thing is, I feel cooking is a way of an expression. You can
Yeah.
express your love of creativity or making a meal for someone else, whether it's your kids or your loved ones, whoever it may be. It's an
Yeah.
expression of your creativity, and
Yeah.
I truly resonate with that because I love to cook for myself and my
Yeah.
family.
Well,
Um,
that's it. And the funny thing, sorry, about the pizza was that
yes,
my son goes, "Oh, that's fantastic." And kids being kids don't like vegetables.
yeah,
So I
no.
just told him it was a pizza, and he ate it and he loved it. So it was only a couple of months after that I said, "That's cauliflower." So yeah, it was quite good.
Oh, that's a
It
good.
worked for me and getting vegetables into my kids.
No, that's a good way to get veggies. Exactly, So that's
That's right.
fantastic. So tell us a little bit about how's your personal space going? How are you as a person now? How do you go to work? Are you a different person? Do people recognize you as the same Steve who was angry, upset? Because I think the kind of work you do, you need to be a bit short-tempered. You need to be hard on people, as they say, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. like, I guess the biggest comment I've got from people
Yeah.
about my change is that I look happier,
Wow.
like, and you look more healthy. Like,
Mm.
and some people I've actually experienced, because I actually work with a lot of different people.
Yeah.
Um, I've had people where some people that I haven't seen for months and months and months, and they sort of start talking to me, and they're looking at me funny, and I go, "You don't recognise me, do you?" And then I tell them my name, and and they're like, oh my god, there's yeah. It's surreal. It's really weird, like, to get that
Yeah.
response from people.
Yeah.
Um,
And what do
yeah.
your kids
So
say, Steve? What do your kids say? Do they find that you're a different dad now? Like, I mean, of course, they would always love you, but I mean, do
yes,
they find you different in interacting with them in different ways?
I think a lot of, yes, they've seen a lot of change in me. Like, there's, for me personally, on a personal level, I've still got a few challenges.
Hmm.
That still involve my family. But as a whole, I've been, I mean, for example, before surgery, I would never ride my bike with my kids to school.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Now I've got a push bike, and I've been trying to go as many times as we can, weather depending and all that sort of stuff, and work,
Yeah. Yeah.
to be able to ride to school with my older son, and pick him up
Oh,
on the bike, take him
yeah.
out for a bike. Although the last time we went for a bike ride, me and the kids, a couple of weeks ago, we got attacked by magpies, but the whole swooping season was on, so
Right. Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
not that confident at the moment. But
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's just like, it's just my kids have
Yeah.
seen me, like, and I've gone and I've said, let's go down to the oval and let's kick the footy. And
Yeah.
I've been doing as, I mean, I get very tired with my working hours and that, but I've
Yes.
been a lot more active in my kids'
Yeah.
life
Exactly.
since surgery, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping that I can even do more next year as
Mm.
the years go. Yeah, because you still, even just after 12 months, your body's still adjusting.
Yes, absolutely. And I also
Yeah,
want to preface this by saying that, kids don't necessarily say a lot of things. They just observe you. And they will
yeah,
say maybe a few months down the right, Dad, you know what? We are actually so proud of,
yeah,
I mean, they won't say this outrightly, but it comes out later on in a different context altogether.
yeah,
I see this with
yeah,
my own kids, so
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No,
good.
my kids have been
So
great.
yeah, that's beautiful. So tell us a little bit about Steve. Where to from here? What are you planning? What are your plans for the future? Like, are you planning to do some big things, or give us a little taste of what's going on?
Sure. I guess for the first 12 months, or just up until now, like I just mentioned, my body's been readjusting a lot. And, I've gone, like, because all your tendons and your muscles are all readjusting for the weight loss. And,
Yeah.
you have some aches and pains. It's not all rosy. You
No.
go through like, my hips were giving me grief for 2 months. My shoulders gave me grief for 2 months. But going forward, I just want to get more out there, more out into the nature, more activities. This summer I've promised my kids we're going to go down and do a lot of swimming.
Yeah.
My Going forward, it's all about my kids. Plus, I want to get into some activities as well. Work permitting, I want to get out there and start strengthening my body. You
Yes.
know, I've got some exercise equipment that I can use now, and I'm just going to try and focus this 2024 on
Building
actually
yourself.
strengthening my
Mm.
body,
Yeah.
because I haven't been able to do a lot. That's the only thing that I've struggled with in the first
Yes.
12 months is actually the physical side of strengthening. So at
Yeah.
52 years of age, dropping so much weight, I can now
Mm.
see my muscles starting to sort of fade away. So
Yes.
I need to focus on my body and
Yeah. Because
strengthening.
previously they were covered with fat, right? So
Exactly. And I've been very lucky. Like, I've because my weight was like an even sort of spread.
mm.
I don't really have a lot of problem areas when it comes to saggy skins or
Blue
anything like
skin.
that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what I've got, I can tone up, and I
Yes.
can correct
Yeah.
naturally.
Exactly.
So with me, yeah, going forward, my plan is just to focus more on my strengthening and health, and my children, and just being there for my family, and just
Yeah. That's
making the next 30 years a lot better than
memorable
what.
for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
memorable. Yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely.
because
So,
like you mentioned
Steve,
earlier. Sorry, yep, go.
yeah, I truly appreciate how you have shared, your journey. Tell us, if somebody is listening to this and this is November. We are recording this in the month of November, which is also called Movember, Men's Health. Is there any piece of advice you would want to give to somebody who may be listening?
I think the best bit of advice is well, how can I put this? So if someone out there is considering making changes and doesn't have, the ability to sort of do it themselves, reach out, talk to someone like yourself, get the advice, because, until I met you, Dr. Arun, I was still hesitant. And at the end of the day, by coming to you, seeking out a professional, getting all the information that you need, I mean, that's very important. Just get all the information that you need and then make your decision, because like I said earlier, I don't regret it. Like it's not easy, but the outcome is fantastic.
Yeah.
So my advice is to reach out, get the information. If you're struggling with saying, I'm going to do this, speak to someone like yourself and listen to what your options are, because I think initially when I first came to you, I came in with a different outlook on what surgery I should have. And then you suggested this and the reasons why.
Yeah. And
we went back, and if you remember, we decided on one particular surgery, but then I rang you back and I said, no, after listening to you, I'm going to go with your advice. And I think that's the best advice that you can give is to seek out, don't regret not doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
just seek out the advice first.
Yeah, you got to be ready to receive the help as well.
Yeah,
that's fantastic, Steve. I am once again, wish you from the bottom of my heart all the best, and to your beautiful family, and wish you a lot of success in whatever you want to do and achieve for yourself and your family and your loved ones. And thank you again for all the time.